You know that title song, you know the stab, you know the name. Your podcast app would have said new title available, new show available, and is from Working Title FC, your mom's favorite sports podcast. She told me personally. But the best intentions, the best laid plans, or the best planned men are victims to circumstance. And I think we got injured out. We are of the end of last season. We career-ending injury. We weren't there for the run-in for various reasons. The Working Title FC team has gone through some changes. Hence, only me, one up front for the start of the season, kind of like a player coach. They still do that. They still try to do that. I think it's too hectic to do now. And it's a bit of a player coach start to the season. Where are the rest of the team? Young Ryan Tinline is in Ireland at the moment. Very jealous of him. I think he's going to Green Day this weekend or maybe next. But living his best life over there, pursuing opportunities, and good luck for him. The man's got an Irish passport. He's got to use it. Senzo also had some interesting news, which I will leave him to tell you about next time he's on the show. But we wanted to come back strong. We want to come back strong to the season. And I feel, you know what I feel we're like? You know how you always get one team in preseason doesn't make any sales or doesn't make any signings. And it's fine. It's fine. We don't need to make signings. We're assessing our squad. We're comfortable with where we are for the season. Liverpool. And then the season starts and they lose a couple of games and their reserve team gets knocked out the Carabao Cup, and then they lose a key player to injury. And then suddenly there's panic stations before the transfer window and they're just signing everyone. And then you look again, you go, oh, I didn't know Lukaku plays for that team because it was just a panic deadline day signing. And I feel that's how we've started. We were assessing, everything was under control, and then circumstances took over. So that's the long, boring side of it. But this is Working Title FC. We're back for a new season. And we want to do some interesting stuff this season, despite how we're starting off. We got some cool opportunities to go into new platforms. We want to do a lot more video content. We are looking at opportunities to get into a video studio and give you more video content. Because listen, I'm an old dude. I'm an old podcast fart. You know, I like listening to stuff, but I know that if we've got to grow, we've got to compete. We've got to compete with Rio Ferdinand, you know, and to do that, we've got to do video, right? Because we know you guys can watch Rio Ferdinand and Mark Goldbridge. And if we're not giving you that, then what are we doing? What are we even doing here? So today's not going to be a super long episode. We just got to get something in your feeds before the season starts so that you know we're legit. We mean stuff. Part of the new changes is we're hoping to bring up some sponsors on board, which means that we can give you guys stuff. And I think that's what it's all about. You know, you don't do stuff. You're never going to make a fortune out of doing a podcast or anything like this. But you want to get a sponsor that you can thank people. You can take your show out to more people and then thank those people for listening and viewing and partaking in the show. So that's what we're actively after. Will we get it? I don't know. Maybe there's a Todd Bowley of podcasting out there that's just going to throw stupid money at things that don't work. And we can kind of hope to get onto him. So we're here because the Premier League season is starting, and I think La Liga starts this season, or La Liga starts this week, and over the next couple of weeks all the leagues start. But we all know the Premier League is where everybody is and what is going on in the Premier League. And I got to start off with my old man diatribe. I got to do it. And, you know, there's a thing, what they used to call people who grew up in Zimbabwe, they called them wenwees. You know, when we were in Zimbabwe, things were so much better and so different. And I think it's, as a 90s Premier League kid, it's easy to become a when we as United were good. But it's not got anything to do with that. I don't think I have ever been less excited about a Premier League season than I am this one. And it's not, let me get out the way first, it's not because Manchester United look like they've done a lot of work to effectively stand still. I just don't know what's going on. I think, could it be that all this willy-nilly crazy spending, unaccountable spending, the Premier League's too big to go bust, has finally caught up with everybody, and that people are going, hold on a second, if we break the rules, Premier League takes away points. Will they have the balls to take away points off one of the big boys? It's easy to punch it down at Everton and Nottingham Forest, but will they take a punch? Will they take a swing at Newcastle or a swing at Chelsea? And nobody really wants to find out. So I don't know if it's that. I don't know if this crazy overspending and these crazy salaries and these crazy transfer fees are leveling out. Because where did you ever see, or at least in the past few years, not Real Madrid buying from the Premier League, not Barcelona buying from the Premier League, but Atletico Madrid buying from Manchester City, and like important Manchester City players? I wouldn't say Alvarez is like a starter, but he's important. The guy scores goals. He's a difference maker. And suddenly for a team like Atletico Madrid, who've got money, but they're not Real Madrid money or that era or that kind of sphere, they're buying from the Premier League. Something's shifting. Something's changing. Or maybe it's just a blip and maybe teams start the season badly and then they go, okay, well, let's spend money, because we haven't really seen the transfer market wake up yet. And it may well, and it tends to be slow after a summer tournament. But nothing coming into the Premier League that's outrageous. Another thing could be is tactics. Tactics may have just got to a point where it's easier to mold young players into these very regimented systems. They've got more energy, pressing and high counter pressing and high lines are kind of the order of the day, and younger players are more likely to do that than older, more established players. More established players going, you got to work around me. It's maybe we're definitely in the era of philosophy coaches and football philosophies and tactical philosophies, and rather work with players who can mold into that. So you're seeing a lot of very young players being bought for a relatively high amount, but not those kind of astronomical. So it could just be a combination of all of those. It just could be a coincidence. Maybe it's just one of those. But I'm not excited for the Premier League season. I can't get excited because no one has made any moves to say that they're going to pull back City. City haven't let go of anybody. Anybody they would let go of is, the rumors were around De Bruyne for a while. I mean, he's a fantastic player, don't get me wrong, and he is a difference maker, but, he's on his way out. Like, he doesn't get better from this point. Even Edison going off, there were stories about him going to Saudi. These things may still happen, but would that really make a world of a difference? A team that holds the ball so much, losing a goalkeeper, like, does that really, swing the pendulum? So you got to know Haaland's not going to have a bad season. When you get an iPhone, or when iPhone does an update or any software, and then they kind of got it right, and then they do the updates and they just bug everything up, and your apps move and your Bluetooth doesn't connect and things are just stupid for a while, and then they do an update and then it's awesome. And I think that's what happened with Haaland last season. They kind of did one of those shitty 0.0 updates. So he can't be that bad again, or that bad. The guy still posted almost 50 goals, but I mean, he's going to be fire again. He's got to be. So there is nothing that says to me that City are going to. I think City could play 10% worse and they still wouldn't be caught. So how can you get excited about that? It's procession, right? News of them, Oscar Bob getting injured, which might force them into the transfer market. But, how do you improve on City? What are you going to do? Arsenal, again, haven't signed that guy. They needed goals. They scored a lot of goals, but that guy, and they didn't sign him, and it's kind of going forward, they're going to be the same. Hopefully get a full season out of Martinelli. They've done the signings in the back, which is great. They had a great defense to begin with. So, does that really rein in City? Does it really get them closer or keep them top longer? I think you now, to compete with City, you got to pretty much give yourself 100% season. Like, you cannot slip up. We're looking at the rest of the teams in the league. Like, Liverpool are going to be in transition. I think it's quite interesting about Slot in that he's been clever. You're always going to draw the parallels between Slot and David Moyes, right? Now, David Moyes, when he came into United, he didn't make any changes, right? He kept the same players because he had a winning team. He didn't have to change, but he kind of came in going, well, I'm not going to change players. I'm going to try to change the way you play, which maybe caused a bit of problems. And you wonder how Slot is going to manage that. But, you got to say, listen, watching from preseason you can see how he wants to play. It's not a million miles away from what Klopp was doing. It is a slight change. You still got Mohamed Salah, who has had a summer off. You got Jota, you still got Luis Diaz, you still got Nunez. The midfield was rebuilt. Van Dijk looked good in the Euros, kind of looked like he got over it a little bit. So probably a good season for Liverpool. I can see them doing top 4. Manchester United, I'll get into some. Let me do it now. Let me tell you. Can I make a prediction, right? The ownership at Manchester United, Ratcliffe and his boys, right? Oh my God, we're but this is this weird stage of football that we're in, is that there was legitimately a stage where we were celebrating the signing of executives. We're going like, oh, we have signed this one from City and this one from me. We were celebrating signing suits. It's like, what is going on? What are we doing? Like, where are we, right? And they come in and they picked on the IT department, right? And had a go at them. Real punching down stuff. And I think they had a lot of problems to sort out. I think there's a lot of internal structural issues, operational and administrative issues in Manchester United that they need to sort out. And kind of like when looking at everything, then looking at the playing staff and looking at what they need to do, they kind of landed on, do we really need to approach the subject of a new manager? Do we have to deal with it right now? We've got so many problems to deal with. Is that another one? Like, he's fine. He's okay. And when you look at what else is out there, is there really anything better that's going to take you any further? And if you understand, if you try to understand what they're doing operationally, is going that the decisions on how a squad will be built and all the rest of it is going to come from top down, pretty joined up, but I mean, it's going to be set at an executive level, and then they'll fit players and even managers and coaches into that. And that's a better way of running a football club, because then you're not beholden on one man. And the what happened with Ferguson and Wenger, even less so Wenger, but those days of a manager coming in and having so much control, it's just impossible. You just can't do it anymore. And it's a lot more sustainable to do it this way, and it's right, and it makes sense, and it looks good. And I think it's perhaps not as easy as it seems on paper. But anyway, they come to the decision, we're not going to get rid of Ten Hag. And seems like he has got a lot of say over who they're buying, because he's spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions rebuilding his Ajax team, right? I mean, I'm kind of like expecting a new bid for Donny van der Beek. Like, honestly, that's where he is, right? And that's fine. I mean, he's obviously got a way he wants to play, and he knows these guys can play it, and that's cool. Like, do that. I have a suspicion, though, because it's very interesting seeing who is sitting next to him on the bench. A bespectacled Ruud van Nistelrooy. And my crazy bet for the season is that Ten Hag is out by December, and Van Nistelrooy takes over for the rest of the season. It's an easy win. It's such an easy win. As soon as the pressure hits Ten Hag, they're going to say, right, we gave you a stay of execution. You got your replacement right there. The guy did the same job at PSV, and I think it was PSV. I always get PSV and Feyenoord confused, but I think it's pretty much PSV. You did the same job. If it wasn't, excuse me, but he did the same job in Holland, kind of the same circumstances. The fans are going to love it. The fans will lose their shit if Van Nistelrooy takes over, so we don't have any backlash. And it gives us time to settle down and find somebody. Maybe we can twist Xabi Alonso's arm, Maybe Ruben Amorim is ready to come in. Maybe the fans will, like the idea of Potter or Southgate by that point. But whatever they've done, they've bought time and they've put his replacement in. We're looking at very cynical people, and that's going to be my big shout of the season. But in terms of Manchester United, again, they've done nothing that makes you go, okay, what, does it change? I mean, you build a team from the back, and that's fine. So he's got his goalkeeper in place. He's got centre back in place. I'm so glad Aaron Wan-Bissaka is gone. I mean, I've never seen a more raw £50 million player. And people say to me, why don't you like him? I'm like, watch the way the guy hits a pass. When he passes the ball, it doesn't stay on the ground. It bobbles the whole way. Never mind the crossing and the attacking. That's simple. Like, how's the dude not passing anyway? Gone, not our problem. I think the Luke Shaw issue needs to be addressed. I mean, the dude is permanently injured or not reliable, and you kind of got to address that. Who would have thought that when we finished the last game of last season, that Casemiro would be probably starting the first game of the next season? I mean, that was like odds on, and it looks like he's starting. We record this on Friday, the day before the Premier League, the afternoon before the Premier League kicks off. So you got Casemiro still there. The striker situation is a problem. Højlund's going to miss the start of the season. And kind of like in their wisdom, they said, last season we signed a promising young striker from an upstart Serie A club. He's battling, so to help him out, let's sign a promising young striker from a upstart Serie A club to help him out. So I kind of think they just, Xerxes was a 300 dude. And Rashford is kind of like a non-entity. You physically watch the dude shrink in the Community Shield. He just physically shuts down. Hopefully Van Nistelrooy can unlock that, and I think that'll be quite key and important to see. So we hope for that. That's enough Manchester United chat, but I can't see them really doing anything much better than they did last season. Let's talk a little bit about Chelsea. I mean, what the hell? This is a team that we understand. We don't understand. I looked the other day, there's at least a dozen players they've signed. 48 first-team players at last count. It could possibly be more. They're going to get rid, they're going to move people, that's fine. 48 first-team players. They can only register 21 of them. What is happening at Chelsea? Got a good coach in there, wins the championship with Leicester. Never going to turn down the Chelsea job. No one's going to turn it down. But what a job to take. And you're going to be under pressure out of nothing of your own making. Weird decisions. We spoke earlier about Alvarez going to Atletico Madrid, but Conor Gallagher, he's not everyone's cup of tea, granted, but the guy is homegrown. And, homegrown players get a lot of rope, and you've let the dude go. I feel sorry for Chelsea fans. I don't know how you know your players. I honestly don't know. Cucurella, okay, he's identifiable, but past that, it's just an absolute mess. Haven't addressed the striker situation. We keep hearing these rumors about Osimhen, but is that going to happen? How does that happen? How do you do it? Do you do a 12-for-1 deal? Like, we'll send you 12 players, just pick them from this bunch. Squad numbers 25 upwards are yours. Have a pick of 12 and we'll swap over for him. The thing about Chelsea, what you've got to be careful about when you talk about Chelsea is that, because they got an American owner and he's been successful, or they've been successful in other sports, and there is very much a thing of and in South Africa we're kind of like Anglo or English football adjacent. We're quite protective of English football. We feel quite connected to it. So we don't want to see Americans come in. Todd Bowley and his boys either have 100% seen the future of football, or they are just fucking around. It's going to be, and Chelsea could just as easily finish 16th as they could challenge. And I think the difference in that is Cole Palmer. I mean, what's he going to do? Signing contracts to like crazy long it's crazy. What they're doing there is fascinating. It's definitely a huge experiment, or it's a blueprint of how football clubs are going to be run. Like I say, maybe they have seen something and maybe they've identified something. Maybe they know something's coming. Maybe they know a Super League is inevitable, which it does. At this point, it does feel like a Super League is the only way because, in terms of the Premier League, you have a league where pretty much no one wants to get relegated from. Even those who get relegated, you get paid so much to get relegated. You've got a top 8 that are really only the top 5 can jostle for the Champions League places, and they all rotate around each other. Are we at a point where we just say, make the Premier League a closed league? 20 teams in, never get relegated. Because that's what it's starting to feel like. Maybe split it, do playoff style. It's just not sustainable the way it is. That's what I'm thinking. It's just like, it's not competitive and not sustainable. I was listening to a podcast the other day about Leicester's title win. And you're going, how quaint does that? What's so quaint? And that was like, 6-7 years ago? And you're going, that could literally never happen again. If Tottenham had to win the Premier League, it'd be like, what a shock, because it's just so closed shop at the moment. Talk about Tottenham, again, another team that you go, well, they're going to, go through a lot of effort to stand still. Dominic Solanke's a great striker, really good striker, but there's nothing that hints that he's going to have a season like he did last season. I think last season was down to some very, very good coaching that he is getting at Bournemouth. Big Ange is a top-class manager, motivator. I like both of them. I like all of them, what they're doing there. But again, you're going to do a lot of work to really not go anywhere. Again, not made any signings to say that, well, they're going to go to the next level. But what they'll want to do is want to get through the season with a lot of their key players staying fit. And I think that's what kind of derailed them last year. And also, to not have to rely on Richarlison for goals is going to be a real benefit and a real plus. Look, so much can still change in the league, because when you're talking about the Premier League and you've not closed off the transfer window, it's very difficult to gauge what's going on, because all of this could change. And, I talk those of you know, like, obviously I'm a big fan of the Portuguese league as well. And that's a league that you'll start. The season started last week. You've got one set of players, them less so being a buying league, they're more a selling league. When the Premier League teams panic, they go look at Portugal, and you could start September and you've lost your whole team. I remember a couple of years ago with Sporting, started the season really well, and the week of transfer deadline, we lost Matheus Nunes and João Palhinha to Premier League clubs, right? And Matheus Nunes, okay, not really settled down at Man City, but at Wolves, he is a good player. And João Palhinha is now playing at Bayern Munich, was been one of the top defensive midfielders. And that happens, and Sporting never recovered. I think we ended up having our worst finish in years, where it looked like we could push for the title, and you lose your midfield overnight from one game to the next. So all of this could change. What's happening? Interesting stuff at Aston Villa. It'd be interesting. I want to see what happens with their season. Last night, reading that Romelu Lukaku could end up there. It's a food for thoughts kind of club that could work for him. He needs to be loved. He needs a good tactical coach. He loves Antonio Conte, but you can't see that deal happening, unless there's a Osimhen move for him. That's the only way that can happen for Lukaku. So poor guy Lukaku, just the man no one wants. But maybe going to Aston Villa will be great for him. Him and Ollie Watkins could actually be potent together, going to the Champions League, do some good stuff. But will they suffer what Newcastle suffered? That as much as you can build a squad, the Champions League pushes you. And this season, like, I'm not going to sit here and even try to explain to you how the Champions League is going to work this year. I mean, it is not everyone plays everyone. Everyone's in the same league. It's heavily weighted for the seeded teams. like it's just a mess. So Aston Villa coming in, maybe by virtue of being a Premier League team, and don't forget they are a Champions League or a European Cup winner. Don't forget that there is a football heritage there. Maybe that being a Premier League team counts in their favour, that they do get a seed. I can't see it, but if anyone's going to have a shit run, it's going to be them. Get a shit draw, they're going to get it. So of the big side, so it'll be interesting what they do. Have you guys seen Brighton's coach? Do yourself a favor and Google this guy, the new Brighton coach. Okay, he's the youngest. I think he's the youngest manager in the Premier League, if I'm thinking right. Let's see what happens there. De Zerbi kind of, they've been the example of how to run a football club, buy low, sell high. But a lot of clubs now have gone, we're just going to shortcut you. Instead of, letting you get a Caicedo and us having to pay 110 million for him, we're going to go get the Caicedo, farm him off to one of our other clubs that we own in our network, and then we'll make that decision. So, have they circumvented that? Similar with Brentford. As time of recording, Ivan Toney's still there. Surprising that he hasn't moved, especially when you consider both Arsenal and Manchester United and Tottenham until recently. Even Chelsea could do with a striker like him, a proven, solid, number 9 English Premier League player. Guy scores goals. Guy's got nerves of steel. I'll be surprised if he's still sitting at Brentford by the time the transfer window closes. Brentford, you're going to wonder, have they hit their ceiling? Are they going to be one of those clubs that just kind of floats around 10th, 11th for eternity before disappearing? Them, maybe Fulham in a little bit of the same boat. West Ham are looking interesting. They've quietly had a very good transfer window, bringing Fulkrug. Again, West Ham's a bit of a striker's graveyard, but Lopetegui's in there, clever coach, great stadium. West Ham, you always feel, is just like waiting to ignite, and there's very much a sense of that happening there. I feel for Wolves. I think this season could be a season too far for them. Gary Neal did some good stuff last year, but it just feels like that is a club treading water. Really hope I'm wrong, but I can't see them pulling it out. Likewise, Nottingham Forest. I think the only redeeming factor is that there are 2 weak teams coming into the league like Southampton, and as great as they are for Premier League and English top flight law, Ipswich Town got a good young coach, but and Ed Sheeran's going to be in the stands, but I can't see those two escaping relegation. And it depends who goes down with them. This could be the season where a big team goes down. Newcastle, what a shame. Newcastle fans, yeah, here's the thing, right? Remember when the Saudis came in and suddenly we started seeing that stuff of FIFA lineups with Salah and Mbappe, and we're buying this and we're buying Neymar and we're doing that. And now we're in a position where they cannot even buy players. They can't even buy the players that they own in the Saudi league and pull some shimmies and pull them over because that's been blocked. So it's like, be careful what you wish for, Newcastle, because you are the richest club in the world and you can't benefit off of it. It's so Newcastle in nature, actually, if you think about it. It's really Newcastle. But again, you guys have got who I think is the best, outside of Haaland, the best striker in the Premier League in Isaac. That guy is a baller. If he stays fit, he's going to score goals for you. But you better hope it, because you can't spend any money. It's like having unlimited credit, and you just can't spend it. You just can't use it. I heard about people, when you play for Fulham, you get a 50% Harrods card or I don't know if it's anymore, because when Al Fayed owned Fulham, maybe it's changed. But when you play for Fulham, you get a 100% Harrods card. And imagine not being, or 50% Harrods card, you can't spend it. That's actually quite funny. Who else have I missed out in this? Oh, shame. 2 clubs that are so easy to forget. Shame. So easy. And the one I should remember, because I've got so many people in my life that support them, is Everton. I thought they were gone last season. And you got to give credit. They lost so many points and they still kind of finished out the relegation zone relatively comfortably. I think it just points to how bad the 3 that went down were. They've sold such a key player for them in terms of the other Onana. If you watch the Euros, you'll get that. My name's not Andre, mate. So you know that guy. Everton have got to stay up, right? Because they got their new stadium next season. Imagine starting with a beautiful new stadium. Never been relegated from the top flight. And you move into a new stadium and suddenly you're in the championship. I hope they stay up. There's a lot of people in my life support Everton. It's actually, we had a conversation on the show last season of saying if Manchester United ceased to exist, who would you support? And I landed on Everton because I said, big club, lot of tradition, great players over the years, and I could still hate Liverpool. So I think that's kind of my kindred club. And Crystal Palace, right? That's a club that's been treading water for a long time. Roy Hodgson kind of overstayed his welcome. I think they should have stuck with Patrick Vieira, if I'm honest. You know, I think he was the right fit for the club. Michael Olise, if he stays fit, the guy has got everything. So how will they cope with breaking up that double act of him and Eze? And again, you know, somebody might come in and take Eze, but another club got a really good coach, had them playing some great football last season. Mateta closed off the season like an absolute house on fire. If you've been watching him in the Olympics as well, just looking so potent. And another player that you go, ooh, you know, a kind of cut price, sensible number 9 that's going to be happy to sit bench, not going to put pressure to play every game. Is he worth a punt? So that's a guy worth looking at. But he's such a streaky player. But you get that streak right, and you're onto something. So Palace, it depends a lot if Eze stays. If Eze stays at Palace, then they are. I think they'll be okay. And you know that area of London that they are in is an absolute hotbed of talent. I think it kind of sits just outside Rio, the suburbs surrounding Paris and probably Buenos Aires as the hotbeds of real crazy football talent. And certainly if they can tap into that local community, they're doing a lot of interesting stuff. Another player from Palace who you want to see have a good season is Adam Wharton, goes to the Euro with England. A lot of people expecting big things of him. So could he be the young player of the year? Probably not, because Phil Foden will still win it. So that is kind of a wrap-up of the Premier League, what to look out for. I've given you my prediction for the craziest thing that'll happen, who's going to win. I didn't mention Bournemouth, but are they worth mentioning? I'll mention them now. I can't see City. I can't see past City. I really can't. Top 4 is going to be any combination of, I reckon, Arsenal, Liverpool, and let's just go. I'll say Manchester United. I think they could just sneak into 4th. So that's kind of going to be a top 4. Relegated, I think Ipswich are going back down, Southampton are going back down, and they're going to take a more established name with them. And I think it could just be Wolves. I think they've just been too sensible by too far, and maybe it doesn't last out for them. So listen, thank you for listening to my TED Talk, my monologue. I will bring more friends along in the future, but we just got to get the content out. The season snuck up on us. Got to be honest. You know, we had the Euro. We had the Olympic Games. A lot of people don't like watching football in the Olympics. I think it's a stupid thing to say. But anyway, we had the Olympic Games. And then suddenly it's the Premier League season and we're back into it. And now the next 9 months of our lives are going to be dictated by absolute strangers who earn hundreds of thousands of pounds a week and don't care about our feelings, but they're going to dictate every aspect of our lives for the next 9 months. Strap in for the ride. It's going to be, I don't think it's going to be crazy. I think it's going to be identical of last season, but along the way, we're going to talk some shit, have some fun. This is Working Title FC. If you're listening to this, you obviously know where to subscribe to us. Keep an eye out. We'll be telling you about more stuff that we're doing. We'll be telling you where to find us on social media. We're going to be doing cooler stuff on social media. Like I say, a little bit of video and hopefully some sponsors that are going to allow us to give you guys some cool stuff. Share your thoughts with us. Share the show with a friend. This is Working Title FC. See ya.